My intention is to share some slides with you that I've put together. My intention is for you to enjoy the slides, hey Jennifer, and my voice, and for you to leave loving the Kismet Codes a little bit more, understanding them, the gates and the hexagram and the gene keys part of human design a little bit more, and really understanding that there is no better or worse, but that the process of having defined centers or undefined centers and being in connection with human beings is absolute magic. And one of the reasons I love this work so much is because it is real life magic. It's the place where science and art intersect, and it is so, so beautiful. And so I hope that you leave with those things. When I started making the slides, I got a bit carried away, and there's absolutely no way I can fit everything I want to fit into one class and still hold your attention and my attention and do all the other things. And so I've divided it into two. And I think that looking at the gates or the Kismet Codes or the hexagrams in this way transforms them and brings them to life in a way that is, I don't know, I learn something new every single time from this stuff. And so for those of you who don't know, I'm Ebonie Allard, also known as Ebonie Alchemy, and that is because alchemy is just in my blood, and that includes helping you have a perspective shift, helping you see something differently. And I did the first round of the cert with Sherry, and I am a massive, massive fan and advocate of her work. And one of the reasons I love it is because she really puts attention and priority into embodiment. And if we're not embodying this work, it's what my dad would call mental masturbation. So it's just a concept, but what good is a concept if we are not living it, if we're not embodying it, if we're not walking our talk, if we're not using it and implementing it? So I love that Sherry does that. Hey Jess! And one of the ways that I embody is to make art or to draw or to create because I am a sacral being. So I'm a 5/2 manifesting generator who is actually a reflector mind and a manifestor body. And that means that when I was doing my cert, in order to learn the gates, I started drawing them, really. And so for those of you who don't know me very well, I am the creator of the Kismet Codes Oracle deck. I was going to show you the box, but it's not within reach of me. However, the book looks like this, and I condensed the Gene Keys book down into this, and I pulled a card just before I went live because I was worrying about tech, and I pulled this card. Oh, go backwards, which is gate 25, and the affirmation on the front says, I surrender to source and let love be the remedy. So that is what I'm doing. So that is enough, I guess, preamble for you to know a little bit about me and a little bit about this work and the way that I've taken the work that I did with Sherry, and I highly, highly recommend the certification, and then condensed it down into my kind of specialist area, if you like. And the Kismet Codes, and the way that I look at the Kismet Codes, brings together astrology and numerology and the gene keys or the gate or the hexagram I Ching information, and synthesizes all of that together with archetypes, with shadow work, with all of the stuff that I was doing already. So stay exactly where you are. I will return. I'm just going to press some buttons and come back with a shared screen. Give me 1 second. Hello my loves, I am back, and now I have slides. So I have no idea whether you can, I'm assuming you can't see me anymore, but you can hear my voice and see a screen. And so this is what we are doing today. And my intention is that you will leave with a simple way to understand the essence of each code and a renewed sense of excitement about your own and each other's unique coding and how we are all mirrors and messages for one another. And the first things first. So the centers come from the chakras. Centers are made up of gates, which are coded DNA cordons. And as above, so below, as within, as without. So we carry the shadow and the light in our DNA. We inherit and are surrounded by emotional and conditioned and traumatized DNA, which is often expressed via those shadow sides. And we can shift and transmute our state by expressing and moving and all sorts of other alchemy. And in so doing, then we move into, we integrate our shadow parts and we become the light parts of our DNA. And so each one of these gates is linked to an actual DNA cordon. And that particular cordon is activated by where the planets were at the moment that you were born, and also at the moment that your soul entered your body. So each center is a center for something, and if sorted by center, then we look at these Kismet codes, if we look at these gates, then we can see what kind of energy they are. And so we are all medicine for one another just by being ourselves, just by being. We are electromagnetically magnetized or repelled by one another, and in so doing, we are being mirrors and messages. And so what is so important about this is that there is absolutely nothing to do and everything to be. In coming home to your human design, in deconditioning, in living in alignment, all we are really doing is letting go of all the doing and being. There is nothing to do to be yourself except to let go of everything that you are not. So when a center is defined, the person carrying that energy is an energetic influencer, and they bring that energy wherever they go. You have a particular way of bringing that energy wherever you are, and you have consistent access to it. And and this energy comes from the sun, and we have a fixed experience, and we are beacons emitting that energy out into the world. And so if we have a particular gate or center defined, we have a responsibility to be the best version of that we can be. Because when you have an undefined center, or wherever a center is undefined or open, the person is open and amplifying the energetic carriers of that energy, so the defined population. And so it is really, really important that as people who are, all of us have definition, we get to amplify, we get to be the best version of that. And where we have undefined centers, or where we are open to other people's energy and we are amplifying that, we get to really decondition, and we get to learn and be wise and share the wisdom and share the things that we can see. And this is how it is really, really beautiful being a human being, right? This experience is kind of magic. So I am hoping that you can still see and hear me. My technology is driving me nuts today, obviously. I've got one person saying they can hear me, and somebody else has just messaged me to say that they can't hear me, and so, or can't comment, so that has thrown me, but I'm going to come back and not get distracted. Essentially, if we want to change the world, we must first be a great example of our defined centers. And if you leave with one thing, that's what I want you to leave with, that you get to be a great example of your defined centers. And if you are a reflector, you get to really work on not getting caught up in everybody else's stuff, and reflecting what you see, reflecting your wisdom, so that the people around you can amplify better. So we're going to go through these center by center, and the root center is our grounding as well as the pressure to do. And I'm just going to go onto a different screen and just check that you can, that I'm still going. Right, cool. Okay, I can still see that apparently some of you can comment, some of you can't. Great. And you can see my screen. Okay, I'm happy with that. I'm going to come back and check the comments from time to time and see if there are any more. So the root center, when we have it defined, is really about, like we just talked before, it works like a motor, it pulses, it switches on and off, and you will have consistent access to your energy in that root. It's all about timing, and it's all about grounding and the pressure to move, the time to move, right? And so what does that mean in terms of the Kismet Codes? So I'm just said the thing that I wanted to say here, right? This center, and therefore all of these gates, are about grounding, trust in timing, and a pulse of action or stillness, and linked to our adrenals. So it's a pressure center, it's a motor center, it's a center of alignment. Okay, so what does that mean for these gates? Well, we'll start with gate 53, and the core theme of this is the pressure to start new things. And in action, this looks like seeing all of life as an opportunity to grow. And I started with this one, and I'm glad I started with this one because this is my Mercury, and it's so much of what my brand is about. But really, it's like having the gift of expansion comes from the pressure to start new things and knowing when to start new things. And so that's a part of the root, right? A part of the root is about expanding and knowing when to start new things. Then we move into gate 52, which is the pressure to focus and concentrate, which gives us the gift of restraint. And so in action, this is waiting to take action until the timing's right. So if you have this defined, it's your responsibility to decondition so that you can offer the gift of restraint. If we then move into gate 60, this is the gift of realism. If you connect with and model, if you have it defined, then you have the pressure to transcend limitation. And this is my conscious earth. And so this is a very interesting gate for me because it means I have the gift of realism. And I think that magic is real. And I intend to demonstrate that magic is real every single day because I have the gift of realism, because I have the ability to demonstrate and model the pressure to transcend limitation. Is this making sense to everybody? So in action, this looks like using creativity to overcome obstacles. So if we then move on, we have gate 19, which I call the sensitivity synthesis seeker, which is all about the pressure to be sensitive to basic needs, which gives you, or anyone with it, the gift of sensitivity. So I'm going to just see if I can change screens and see whether anybody else can comment. And I want to know, is this making sense? And I'm going to post that and see whether it worked. Oh no, something went wrong. Oh, okay, great. Suddenly, all of a sudden, I've got loads. All working well, and you can still hear me and see me. Thank you so much. Suddenly, everything moved. Great. And all the comments caught up. You've got to love technology. Okay, so this is how this works. So we're seeing the theme around all of the gates in the root center are all to do with pressure. And when we own our own energy of this, when we heal or transcend or transmute or alchemize or move or be with or accept, whatever you want to say, then we're able to find the gifts. And so if you have gate 39 defined, then you have the gift of dynamism. And this is about the pressure to find passion and spirit in life and to emote. And again, like if you don't have these gates defined, you will experience the energy of this when the sun passes through this gate. Or maybe you'll experience it when the moon passes through, or one of the other gates passes through. You'll experience the energy of this gate. But if you have it defined, then you will have that experience and be a beacon for this energy all of the time. So then we have gate 41, which is the pressure to feel and the desire for new experience. And again, when it's embodied, this becomes the gift of anticipation. And gate 58 is the gift of vitality, which you could experience as the pressure to make things better. And in action, this looks like cultivating joy and contentment. And so when we have these gates defined, and I was speaking with someone who has gate 58 the other day, and they found themselves in a place of, I guess, criticizing themselves and criticizing others and not finding the joy, then you get to really stop and drop and check in with yourself and go, okay, what am I feeling? This pressure to make things better is here to serve me. It's here to aid me in cultivating joy and contentment so that I can give the gift of vitality to the world. Then we have what's often known as the fighter, and I call it the nuanced ninja because it's really about taking a stand for what matters. It's really about knowing what to take a stand for. And it is the pressure to find or the struggle for purpose in life. And some people can experience that as really struggling to find their purpose or find the purpose in pressure. And other people will experience this as the knowing what to fight for and having a lot to fight for. And in that, they become and they demonstrate the gift of perseverance. And there's quite a lot of people in my world who have gate 38 because I have gate 28. And so, I see you giving the world the gift of perseverance by not succumbing to this pressure, but working with the pressure. So all of the gates in the root center are really there to help you, or to help us, or to demonstrate timing, and to work with pressure, and to be about alignment. 54 is the pressure to achieve, to rise up and to transform. The people that I know who have this are such incredible embodiment of spirituality and money often. And when they do that, they offer the gift of aspiration to the world. And so what you can see is that all of these gates are in the center of alignment. So they're all about alignment. They're all about pressure. They're all about helping us to modeling working with stillness and action, which is timing. And so we need to be grounded in our alignment so that we make and work with the pressure rather than being squashed by it. Is this making sense to everybody? I think so. Great. Okay. I'm just going to pause and see if there are any more comments that anybody wants to share with me. And I'll check back in, but otherwise I'm going to move on because I have so much to get through. And we'll see. It may not be that I get through all of them, but I think even just by demonstrating this, I'm going to show you how they work, and you'll get to see them in a different way. Right? You'll get to fall in love with yourself and each other and all of these beautiful DNA parts of us that we get to work with, and really begin to understand and fall in love with our bodies, because our bodies are incredible alchemical tools with all of these pieces of DNA in them. So we're going to move on to the solar plexus, and the solar plexus is all about emotions. This is where all of the emotional waves live. And so if you have it defined, then you are an emotional authority, then you're here to demonstrate emotional intelligence to the world. And we need that more than ever right now. We need emotionally responsible, emotionally intelligent beacons of emoting, right? And of owning emotions and riding that wave and not overriding it and not resisting it and expressing from that wave. And if you have it undefined, then what we need from you is we need you to not caretake when you don't want to. We need you to not say, not caretake out of resentment, but to hold boundaries and reflect and say, it seems like you're feeling a lot of feelings. Can I support you in that? Or what do you need to move through those emotions? Or would you like to talk through your emotions with me, or what the sense that you've got, or the feeling, or something like that? Okay, there's a million different ways that you can do it. And this is an awareness center, and it's a motor center also. It's where we have emotions, which are energy in motion. It's where we have feelings. It also brings us back into alignment by speaking, by sharing, by expressing. And that expressing might be writing, it might be drawing, it might be talking, singing. There's a million different ways that we can bring this emotional energy and express it into the world. And it is the focus of our evolutionary time. And I believe that we are in a time where we really need to grow in emotional intelligence and demonstrate the power. So if you have any of these defined, this is really an opportunity to alchemize them and to be strong in them, and this is how you change the world, right? And there's more on that later. But the first one is Gate 6, which is about vulnerability, conflict, and intimacy. It forms part of the subtle wave, and in action it's about using emotional intelligence to alchemize conflict into peace. And I have this wave, this is part of my wave, and I therefore take on responsibility for expressing my feelings and engaging with the energy of vulnerability, conflict, and intimacy in order to transmute it into the gift of diplomacy. The next one is Gate 37, which is I call them mama. And this is about healthy communication and maintaining strong boundaries. Now, this is a really, really important gate hexagram, because it's about, and it's very, very prevalent at the moment, we're talking about expressing and feeling feelings around tradition and around how things have been. And we get to then transmute that into the gift of equality. Now, that might also be the gift of equity. And if you are a mum, or if you're somebody who has this gate, then it's really, really important for us to be communicating our emotions and allowing strong boundaries and strong conversation to exist in the same time by being emotionally intelligent. And this forms part of the build-up wave. And that means that there may be fears of things that have happened before, or the way things have been, or not speaking up, and all of that may build up within you until it needs to be released. And we're not trying to change the wave exists anyway, and so there is nothing to do, everything to be. But by modeling healthy boundaries and expression, then you create strong bonds within family and community, and we need this more than ever. Okay, so then we have Gate 22, which is a fear of silence. And so often women particularly, but everybody, is uncomfortable or fears the silence. And so if you have this gate, then you really get to model feeling your feelings, maybe without talking about them. Maybe you write them, maybe you draw them, maybe there's another way of expressing. Maybe you sit with the feeling until the feeling has passed. And in so doing, really offer yourself grace and others, and demonstrate and embody graciousness, which includes silence sometimes, or not speaking until you're ready. And so if you're in an emotional state, if you don't, because this is part of the spontaneous wave, if you suddenly have a spontaneous emotional response to something, then you may allow yourself to feel that with and be in silence around it, and not explain yourself and not over explain yourself. And if you don't get this right, because it's spontaneous, there is no right, by the way, and I want to retract using that word, but the affirmation on this one is I embrace even the messiest parts of humanity with grace, because life is messy and human beings are messy and feeling feelings is messy. And so just being with that and offering silence and a nod and a look and an embodiment of graciousness is what this part is about. I'm going to keep going, but I want to check comments again. So if you do have comments or questions, please put them in, and I am going to attempt to refresh and see whether there are any more. God, I don't even want to. I'm a bit scared to refresh. So if I've missed any questions or anything, I will come back afterwards, okay? But I'm going to attempt to see whether I can. There we go. Oh, I've put it twice. Oh, this has been great. Wonderful. I can see some comments. Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So, 36. This is, again, part of an emotional wave. It's part of the escalator wave. Okay, and so what can happen here is that your emotional work is to move in a wave through the fear of inadequacy. And working with that fear of inadequacy, you can, and seeing all of life as an experience, and all of the humanity, all of the pieces of powerful emotions, right, like love and hate and all of the things that they are all of the things that create attraction. Those are the pieces that create sexual drive. Those are the pieces that actually have us create, right? Whether they have us drawn to each other, like often it's, you know, very, very different people, or that kind of opposites attract piece of that can also come across as comparison, which causes this fear of inadequacy, or like, oh, I'm not everything. But actually we're really here not to be everything, but to work together and to have an experience of co-creating, and to have an experience of conflict or disagreeing, or to have an experience of being overwhelmed by incredibly powerful emotions and staying with that and honoring the humanity in that. And that piece of like, even in the wildest of weather, I stay open and look every experience right in the eye. And the beauty of looking at the gates this way is that as somebody who has one of these gates and has one of these emotional waves, you can be like, oh wow, it's a lot to kind of move with the energy of these fears. It's a lot. Wow, to get like to be in the wave, to experience the wave of humanity and like these powerful emotions is a big deal. So you can have a little compassion for yourself, right? And like be in it, and also go, wow, it's one of the coolest parts of being human is that we have emotions and that we really feel life. And then if you don't have, or if you're undefined in the solar plexus, then hearing about the gates in this way and hearing what it is that that person is alchemizing or transmuting in the moment of the wave, or whilst they're being with that wave, you can have a little bit more empathy for them. Right? You still might not be able to help them, but you can be like, wow, they're going through a lot right now. It's a lot to feel. But I need some space, so I'm going to take myself for a walk, or whatever, right? 30 is, so when I put the fear of the Mirai, for me, this is the fear of fate. And, the fear of not knowing how our life is going to pan out, or what the life has in store for us. And it is this desire to have life turn out a certain way, or to have what you want. It's really interesting. I have this gate, and I've never there's something about talking out loud. I'm like, oh yeah. I have this fear quite a lot. I have the fear that the life as I see it in my mind's eye, and the things that I want to experience and I want so intensely, and I have such a great deep longing for, might never happen. And it might be completely out of my control, because it might not be my destiny to have that experience. And in feeling those feelings and transmuting and alchemizing those feelings, then I am able to just laugh at life and be like, you know what? It's all an experience, because the future and the past and my fate, none of it matters, because all we really have is now. And in this moment, I can feel and revel in the intensity of desire and emotion and what I am feeling, and just be with it. And recognize that my desire and intense longing for something in particular is no better or worse than, the intense feeling I can actually feel when I smell a rose or feel a raindrop on my skin. And that actually really my desire is to feel deeply. And for me, and I have, like I say, I have this as part of the escalator wave, and it means that sometimes I can have an absolute meltdown at a movie, or because something isn't going my way, right? We'll see whether Facebook kicks me off for that drawing, by the way, of that image. We'll see. So 55 is the fear of emptiness. And again, this is really about transmuting the fear of that kind of nothingness, and really recognizing that there's a blank canvas there, that when you play and when you recognize that you've got a blank canvas, that with you can do anything, when you've got nothing you can do anything, right? Then you're really able to surrender to creativity and to abundance. And again, this is part of the spontaneous wave, and so it can feel like there's nothing. All of a sudden you could just have a moment of like, but there's nothing. And you get to feel the feeling of that and go, okay, I can alchemize that into it. If there's nothing, then I can make anything. And the way that you do that is by playing, by accessing the spirit of abundance, by recognizing that magic and make-believe and your imagination is where anything and everything comes from. And so then you're in a place of really being able to model and be the gift of freedom. Which then leads us on to 49, which is the loving revolutionary and the fear of nature. And this could be the nature of people, it can be the nature of history, it could be the nature of humanity, it could be the nature of Gaia. But really, it's about transmuting that fear of nature into revolution, into, well, what's coming next? What is it that you're specifically scared of, and how do we change that? What would you like to see instead? And being an advocate for a cause or change which is really aligned with your values and with principles. And so this, you can experience this as part of the build-up wave. You can experience this as like things getting too much and it just not being okay anymore. And it's like, cool, if it's not okay anymore for things to be the way that they have been, or the way that nature or the way that people tend to be, or experiences tend to be, or have been for some time, what would being different look like? And how can you advocate for what that difference might be? How can you lead the revolution? What is the revolution that you want to see? And again, this is an expression, right? It's an emotional wave. And so it might be speaking, it might be writing, it might be singing, it might be drawing. It could be a million different ways that you express this emotion and give us all the gift of revolution. And so we get to the end of the solar plexus, where we can really see that all of these cards, all of these gates, are all about emotion and transmuting and riding the wave of feelings in order to come back into alignment for all of us, in order to be the change that we want to see in the world, and in order to recognize that we are human beings who feel feelings. Which has us then move on to the sacral. The sacral is life force energy, and it is not just life force energy, it is sustainable life force energy. So we're talking about really using this sacred battery pack, this day in, day out rechargeable energy for creation that we have with discernment. And whether you have it defined or undefined, if you have it defined, you've got a responsibility to practice discernment and saying yes to the things that are really a yes and no to the things that aren't. And this is not just creation, it's not just the work, but it's also about who we engage with in having and conceiving babies and relationships and partners, and making anything where we are using our life force and our creation energy. If you've got this defined, you get to be really, really discerning about how you use it. And if you have it undefined, then you get to share with us, what it is that you see, what it is that you know. You get to amplify and be an example of, so that we can all see whether or not we are using our sacral energy well. And there's a lot more to it, but it's just an example of a perspective that I want to share with you. It is a motor center. It's our battery pack for those who have it defined. And for those who do not have it defined, you get to ride this energy. You get to be in the momentum of this energy. And so you want to pick people who are using their discernment well to be around. Because you want to be around people whose energy is sustainable, so that you get to experience sustainable energy amplified within you, rather than picking people who feel like they have loads of energy, or they're go, 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 or they're successful, or they're creating a lot. But if they're not using that battery pack well, if they're not allowing it to be recharged, then your life is going to feel quite jerky energy-wise. And so you want to also pick people whose energy feels sustainable and who feel like they've got a good yes and a good no. And good boundaries, essentially, right? And are connected to their instant response. So all of the centers that we're talking about here are to do with, so it's a motor center, and they're all to do with life force, work, creation, creativity, turn on, play, boundaries, right? These pieces. So what do we find? Okay, what we find, first of all, this theme of patterns and rituals that ensure consistency. And so if you have this gate defined, you want to be an example of creating healthy habits and rhythms and rituals. And when you do that, then you demonstrate and you embody and you are a beacon of patience and pace for the world. When you have gate 14, this is really about following your dreams to create true prosperity. This is about generating resources that empower your direction, but also the direction for all of us, and get to demonstrate the gift of competence, which means that you get to really demonstrate that living your dreams and doing work that you love is enough and provides resource. And you get to be in a beacon for that. You get to be an embodiment of that. You get to demonstrate to the world that we get to do what we love, even if it doesn't make sense. If you have gate 29, then you get to be a beacon for committing and to an experience purely for the sake of experience, and not being like, oh, well, it has to be a certain way, or if it's not, doesn't turn out how I expected it to, I wanted it to, then it was a waste of my time. And so you get to be devoted to the things that matter and that light you up, and in so doing, you get to embody and demonstrate the gift of commitment. This is my unconscious Mars, so it's my greatest wound. And I have been really recognizing that with gate 30 as well, there's an element here of I am I can be committed to and I can be lit up by things that aren't turning out how I want them to, because I'm still learning from them, because the experience itself is still valuable to me, even if I'm not getting what I want. And in so doing, I take on the responsibility of demonstrating commitment by being fully devoted to the things that matter and to the things that light me up. I'm hoping this is making sense to you. If you have gate 59, then this is about offering the gift of intimacy to the world. And in action, this is about being honest and vulnerable. Now, this is part of my subtle wave. It's also my unconscious Jupiter. So it is my culture. This is the culture that in my work, in my containers, in my sphere, in my life, in my family, in my friendships, this is the energy that I gift the world. I gift the world the gift of intimacy by being honest and vulnerable and sexy as hell. And actually, it's knowing this and working with this and really understanding that sexy means your truth and my truth creates, like our truth, creates something greater, creates potent partnership. That has been huge for me, of really embodying and going in on and doubling down on what does it mean to be an example of this energy. So then we have gate 9, which is all about determination, focus and planning. It's really about staying focused on the details that matter. It's the energy for and the demonstration of determination. But it's about determination not just for grit, right? Not just because you can. This is my moon, and it's not just about doing it because you can carry the whole world on your back, right? It's really about focusing on the details that matter, not losing sight of the goal, carrying on, putting one foot in front of the other, and really, like, in the yes and the no here is like, are you saying yes to the things that matter, or are you saying yes to everything, or are you saying no because it's not happening quick enough? So it's really tapping into that sacral response. And like, the sacral response might be quick, but the goal and the thing that you are swimming towards might take a really long time. And so therefore you're being the embodiment of the gift of determination. And then we have gate 3, which is all about bringing order to the constant changing of circumstances. And so this in action looks like playfully creating order out of chaos. And what that means is that if you are able to really say yes and no using your sacral, you get to be a demonstration of the gift of innovation. And you get to overcome confusion, which we all experience, because being human is inherently confusing, with playful patience and devotion. And you get to be the change, right? You get to be the change by really connecting in with that sacral and saying or yes and no and keep moving forward and playfully creating by listening to your sacral. Then we have a gate 42, which is about closing cycles and bringing things to an end, which is such a gift. And it can feel maybe sad. It can feel like, well, it's the end. It's, or again, like, why hasn't this worked, or what's happening here, or what? But this is really about the creating endings. It's because this is a sacral gate, right? So it's about creating endings well. It's about celebrating things. It's about finishing things. It's about closing them out. It's about ritualizing that and then allowing yourself to be detached from it having been a certain way or it being seen in a certain way. Actually, the magic of our creations, when they've been created well by a real sacral response, and they've been finished well, or the ending's been created by a real sacral response, the impact of that creation will go on forever and ever. It will be a long and lasting legacy, and we cannot see the impact in this moment. And so you get to be detached from what it looks like right now and know that in another cycle, because you closed things well, you will reap rewards of that, and you get to be the embodiment of that. 27 is really all about nourishment and protection and caring for others from an abundant overflow. So this is really about listening to your sacral, do I want to? Have I got the energy for that? And it is about being altruistic, but being altruistic from a place of knowing that if your cup is not full, if you do not have the energy for it, then you're not giving something nourishing and you're not protecting properly. And so we can only give from that real sacral response of like, do I want to give? Do I want to show up for this person? Do I want to use my sacral energy for that? This is my unconscious sun, and it is a beautiful energy that I am still very much learning every day. Like, do I want to use my energy for that? Is it a sacral yes? And 34 is the gift of strength, and this is about pure power. And with that pure power, demonstrating that power is not bad, it's not evil, it's not anything, it's neutral, right? Like power is power. And so we get to harness power, we get to empower power for the good of the collective and to use your power well. And so you get to be, if you have this defined, a demonstration of the gift of strength, the gift of power, pure potent power, and using your power really well and not being scared of it, but knowing how to use it, how to channel it, where to direct it. And so that brings us then back into this place where we can understand this energy perhaps a little differently, where we can look at this energy, this center, and go, okay, I can really see now what the sacral is for, like what are the yes or no is for, and what gifts we're giving and embodying to the world when we demonstrate this well. Now, I am aware of time, and I was going to move into the spleen, and maybe I'll do one more. I'm going to do spleen, and then I'm going to wrap it up. And that means that next time, in part 2, I will do the ego, the G-center, the throat, the ajna, and the head. So the spleen, this is our fears. Now, most of you know this, but I'm going to restate it. The chakra, the solar plexus chakra, was split out at a certain point in time, don't ask me when, split out into 2 centers, right? Split out into the emotional solar plexus and the spleen. So this is also, like the solar plexus had a lot of fear vibes, so do all of the gates and the DNA in the spleen, but this is the oldest awareness center, and this is the seat of our intuition, and it works differently than the solar plexus. So this is a very quick and then gone sensation, whereas the emotional solar plexus offers a wave, whereas the root offers a pulse, whereas the sacral offers a hit, if you like, right? You will all have your own experience of these, and if you are have your spleen defined, then you are here to demonstrate the way, like a particular way of responding to threats and sending out signals. And if you have it undefined, then you get to kind of mirror, messenger, reflect that and amplify, the way that other people and the people around you are modeling response to threat and response to fear, and become wise in that. And together we get to shift and evolve this center. And so it is an awareness center, and it's a center of evolution and survival. And it's really important at this time because we're shifting fear, we're shifting evolving our relationship to intuition and our relationship with fear. And it's because of that that it's really, really important that we become more and more and more embodied, which is this body awareness, right? That we grow our interoception and our awareness to really be in our bodies, to demonstrate and to model vitality. And as the world shifts more and more into this evolution, there's different camps, right? There's the AI camp, and there's the technology camp, and there's all of that. I'm totally here for, as long as it's embodied, as long as it's not coming from fear. And so the spleen, and those of you who have these gates, it's really, really important that you become an embodiment for, a signal for, a beacon for the gifts of these gates. And so 48 is again, this fear of inadequacy, but in action, it's really about exploring the depth of life through your body and therefore demonstrating the gift of resourcefulness. It's like, yeah, what happens if you have this fear of inadequacy and you really go into your body and you're able to be the gift of resourcefulness through curiosity. So if you have this gate, then it's really about embodying and demonstrating and approaching fear and survival from a place of curiosity and resourcefulness, and being the embodiment of resourcefulness in the world. If you have gate 57, then this is a fear of the future, and then this is also like, what can I trust? What can I not trust? You know, if in the world of AI, in the world of tech, in the world of, you know, all of like deep fake and like all of this, like, what do we do? Is the future going to be really scary? Are we going to survive? Are we going to make it? With 57, you get to really trust your intuitive knowing that you may not have your eyes, or your eyes may be deceived, you may not have your ears may be deceived, but that your body knows, your instinct knows that you have this gift of intuition, and you get to be a beacon for that. And if you have it undefined and you learn around this, right, then you get to teach on intuition, you get to teach on embodiment, you get to share your wisdom if you've deconditioned and if you're in a place of being able to do that. Then we have the fear of the past. You know, history repeating itself. And I see this in the world, right? I see this in the world with the wars that we're having and the conversations that we're having and history repeating itself. I have a fear of the past. But in action, that looks like practicing forgiveness and learning from mistakes and really demonstrating and being like, hey, you know, this is what we tried last time and it didn't work. What can we do different? How can we build bridges? How can we make amends? Healing is always possible. Really being the embodiment of that. Being the embodiment of healing is always possible, and demonstrating that by not trying to fix it alone, but intuitively connecting with others who want to group together and forming networks. It's the 4-4, right? It's not a surprise, it's 4-4. This is all about networking, but it's not you being the whole network, it's you and others being part of a network, networking together so that we can create a grid of symmetry, of synergy, and so that we can forgive the past and that we can learn from our mistakes and we can move on. And then we move into gate 50, which is really all about the fear of responsibility, the fear of, oh gosh, but that means, and so if you have this gate, you might have heard all of that and been like, that's a lot of responsibility. But it's not your responsibility alone, right? Your responsibility is to be the embodiment of equilibrium. And that means by demonstrating and being the mouthpiece for and expressing and reminding everybody of your values, of your group values, of our values, preserving good values, and then knowing that in preserving good values that we enrich the past and the future and the present. And so you get to take that responsibility, that fear of responsibility, and live your values and know that you living your values is enough. That will change the world, that you demonstrating that and you holding strong in demonstrating and living your values will have a ripple effect. And by all of our mirror neurons, everyone around you is going to do that too. And if you have gate 32, you may have a fear of failure. And by recognizing that there is no such thing and really transmuting that fear into the only way we fail is by not living. You get to follow your senses, you get to lead change in the community by just putting one foot in front of the other, by living, by being, and really trusting that everything is working out, that you may not know where you're going, that you may not know what we're evolving into, but that because you trust your senses and because you believe in the unseen, you know, this sense between us, that together we will persevere and we will preserve, and you get to be the embodiment of that, right? By essentially holding the collective sense of trust and faith. 28 is the fear of death and purposelessness. And this is really about demonstrating courage and facing the darkness in life with that courage. And sometimes that looks like succumbing to purposelessness and then remembering that this too shall pass, and that we have the gift of totality, that actually time, it doesn't exist. Time is an illusion, that it's all a game anyway, and we get to just continue and we get to laugh at the pointlessness of it all and the futility of it all and carry on and know that that, you know, it is a constant. Life is, or it isn't, but the time is not real. And this is a bit that is, a kind of, again, this is about sensing and tapping into purpose and purposelessness, but really demonstrating the gift of and being the gift of totality. And that is very, all of these are very kind of similar and different. They're very subtle because this is the spleen, right? And so we then have 18, which is the fear of authority, or this fear of being either superior or inferior, too much or not enough, being out of integrity, not being perfect. And the way that this shows up, and the way that you get to really demonstrate an embody the gift of integrity, is to recognize that integrity is really about wholeness. It's not got nothing to do with ethics, got nothing to do with morals. It's got to do with the healing and the wholeness and the potential of all things, and knowing that sometimes we need inferiority and superiority in order to make a whole. Sometimes, you know, we have yin, we have yang, we have all of these different component parts that make the whole. And so you get to use your judgment and see potential for healing in everything, and walk your talk and keep going in the search for wholeness, in the search for integrity, and in so doing be and demonstrate and embody the gift of integrity. So that then brings us back into this place where we can see that all of the gates in the spleen are all around evolution and survival, and having a response or a reaction really to fear and to our body, and that these are all about keeping us as a society, as a collective, in a place of vitality by evolving and surviving, right? And so these pieces, they're all around that. They share a common theme. So hopefully you can get all of that. And I have all of these other slides that I was going to share, but we're going to do it next time.